There is a lot of speculation concerning the time frames of Daniel with the 1,260 years, 1,290 years, the 1,335 years, and this you can see is the 2,300 years. Now we're going to start by reading the vision, and that is in Daniel 2:31 through 35. Thou, O King, sawest, and behold a great image, the great image whose brightness was excellent, and stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, and his breasts and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till the stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain that filled the whole earth. Now that is the dream. And we're going to read you, we're just going to do 36 through 38 because I'm going to go, and y'all forgive me because I'm going to be jumping around back and forth from Daniel 2 to Daniel 8. And I'm trying to have to follow my notes the best if I can. So if I apologize if I have periods of time where I'm pausing to check my notes and make sure that I'm still on topic, okay? But anyway, for now, we're just going to read 2:36 through 38. It says, This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O King, art a King of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So right now, from reading chapter 2, I should say the only thing that we know for sure is that Babylon was the head of gold. And we're going to, like I said, jump back and forth from 2 to 8. But for now, we're going to go back to 2, and we're going to discuss the breasts and arms of silver. So if we go back to 2, and we go back up here, no, where am I? Oh, there we are, the king of the king's stream. Starts with the head of gold, and it says his breasts and his arms of silver. And then it goes down here to 39 or 30. Yeah, 39. And it says, After thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. Now that is literally the only thing that we know. We don't know who that is until we go to chapter 8. So it actually tells us in chapter 8. Verses 3 and 4, Then I lifted mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver them out of his hand, but he did according to his will, and he became great. So, to find out who the ram is, we have to scroll on down to verse 20. It says, The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns, the 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So we know that the ram, or the breasts and arms of silver, were the kings of Media and Persia. Y'all just follow along with me here. So now we're going to go on to the belly and thighs of brass. So we're back in chapter 2. We're going to be doing this just a little bit. It says his belly and thighs of brass in verse 32. If you get down to 39, it says, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So it doesn't tell us who that is. In chapter 2, we have to go to chapter 8. And it tells us for verses 5 through 7. As I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram which had the 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver out of his hand. So to find out who the goat is, we scroll back down again. It says, the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. I want you to pay attention to that word, the first king. So chapter 8 is basically telling us, actually begins with the goat defeating the ram. I mean, it tells us about the ram first, and then tells us the goat defeats the ram. So that's literally telling us that starting with the goat defeating the ram. So let me check my notes real quick, make sure that I'm not leaving anything out. Oh, and you do remember that, like I said, this chapter begins telling us that the goat would defeat the ram, but the prophecy is on the children of Israel and the land of Israel, not on the whole world. So this king, whomever he is, has to control Israel. There's a lot of people that will tell you that these 4 kingdoms are Alexander's 4 general, but remember, they have to control Israel and Jerusalem. And as far as I know the Seleucid Empire was the one that had control of the nation of Israel and Jerusalem. So let's go ahead and finish reading that. It says, the first king. It said, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power, in the latter time of their kingdoms, when the transgressors are come. We'll just read that in a minute. Let's go back to 2. Because the next thing it tells us in chapter 2, it says his legs are of iron. Now, General Pompey was the one who took over Israel and Jerusalem. He captured Israel and Jerusalem. And we know that Herod had control of Israel and Jerusalem whenever Yeshua was born, because it was the Romans who crucified Yeshua at the bequest of the Jews, of course, but the Romans were the ones who crucified him. So we know that the iron was the Roman Empire. But it goes on, let's get down, and the 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all of these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So like I said, we know that the legs of iron was the Roman Empire. We know that without a fact. Now, a lot of people have a tendency to stop here as if everything ended with Rome and the Vatican, and they actually swear that the Catholic Church is coming back. But, I mean, it's just ridiculous to believe that. Let's read Daniel 2:40 real quick. Oh, actually, we already read that one, so like I said, now we know that the Romans were the iron. All we have to do is figure out who the clay is. That was the legs of iron. And then we have the feet of iron and clay. So like I said, we know that iron is the Roman Empire. So now we just have to figure out who the clay was. So when we get down to that, actually, we're going to go to Daniel 2:41 through 43. Because the next kingdom to rule over Israel and Jerusalem was the Muslim Caliphate. And I'm sure that most of you know that the Temple Mount is marked by the Muslims as the spot where Muhammad supposedly took his night journey to heaven. In other words, he went to confront Yeshua and he was thrown out of the kingdom. Let's read Daniel 8:9 through 14. It says, out of one of them came forth a little horn, which were out of the kingdoms. Out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land, and it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. And he magnified himself even to the prince of the host when he went to confront Yeshua, and by him was the daily sacrifice taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So we know that once the Muslims took control of the Temple Mount, they built what was originally the Dome of the Rock, but ended up building Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. So once they had set that up, we no longer had access to the Temple Mount. So by him was the daily sacrifice taken away, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and it prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking unto another saint, and said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, until 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now I want to show you something, because this says sanctuary be cleansed, so that the Christians will tell you that this means that somebody's going to go into the temple. But if you actually look at these words, we're going to first look at sanctuary. This word is Kodesh, and it means apartness, holiness, sacredness, separateness, apartness, sacred, holy, of God, places, things, set apart, separateness. So there's no mention of a sanctuary anywhere in there. None whatsoever. And then we're going to go to the word cleanse, which is sadak. And it says to be just, righteous, have a just cause. You justify, just of God, to be righteous in conduct, character. And remember, this is supposed to be the word cleansed here. To put or made right, justified, make pure. Let's go down here. To justify oneself. So, if you look at this verse, what this actually says, because there's nothing in there about a temple being cleansed. This says, he said unto me, until 2,300 days, then shall the righteousness or the holiness of Yahu be justified. He justified himself. So there's nothing about a sanctuary, people. I'm sorry to tell you this, because y'all don't study, you just seem to think that you know everything based on a fake interpretation using these English words. But anyway, let me look at my notes, make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Like I said, it says nothing about anything being cleansed, and certainly never mentions the temple. Now we're going to go to Daniel 8:23 through 25, because it continues telling us about the Muslims. In the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to a full, a fierce countenance shall stand up, understanding dark sentences, or understanding shall stand up. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and prosper, and practice, and destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against Yeshua, but he shall be broken without a hand. So, remember, like I said, that the Temple Mount was marked by the Muslims. Muhammad had supposedly taken his night journey on the white steed to heaven. Of course, he was thrown out, but down here on earth, the Muslims just went stomping across the world, and the coveted land that they were trying to covet, they were coveting Rome and the Vatican. They were trying to get in to take over Rome and the Vatican and completely do away with Christianity. But the Crusaders stepped in, and the Crusaders and the Muslims would battle for years and years over who was going to have control of everything. Now, the Catholics ended up keeping Rome and the Vatican, but at that point the Muslims ended up taking over Jerusalem, or Israel and Jerusalem. So the Muslim Caliphate, like I said, was the next of the four kingdoms. Now, let's go back. I got to get to my notes. Hold on. Kingdom number 3. This is World War I began in 1913, and Great Britain took control of Israel and Jerusalem. They in turn handed the kingdom back over to the Jewish people. The Holocaust was their punishment, people. You need to get that into your head now. It says, we're told that the tribe of Yehuda would go back first, so that the rest of the tribes can't boast themselves against Yehuda. And we're going to read Zechariah 6 and 7. There it is. Then that day I will make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people. They're fighting everybody. Right now they're fighting everybody over there. They're even having to fight against the United States in a way. On the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. If y'all know, just a day or two ago, there was actually Jewish people dancing and singing on the Temple Mount, which hasn't happened in years. So it says, the Lord shall save the tents of Judah first, or Yehu shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Yehuda, and that is what you are seeing today. So we know now that, like I said, the British took control of Jerusalem, or Israel and Jerusalem. And so, the kingdom, I should do this first. Kingdom number 1, kingdom number 2, kingdom number 3 was the British Empire. Now, let's read what it says. And let's see, where was that at? I have to check my notes real quick. Well, I think it says it in 2, but I don't think it says anything about it in chapter 5. But let's go back up here. Then I saw that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, and then were the iron, the clay, that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. This was the British Empire. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Like I said, once the British Empire took control of Israel and Jerusalem, they had the Balfour Declaration written, and gave the Jews their land back, basically. But the Holocaust still hadn't happened yet. So just keep that in mind. So they didn't get to keep all of it. They were just welcomed back into their land, because the Holocaust was actually the punishment. But anyway, let's go on down here. And in the days of these kings, you see this, it says, in the days of these kings. Not sometime in the future, but in the days of the Romans, or the feet of iron and clay. because that was the last ones that it talks about. See, even his iron is not mixed with clay. In the days of those kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. I'm telling you, people, God has left America, and he's back in Israel. We're going to get to the church and all of their deception in a later video. Right now I'm just trying to show you Daniel's 2300 years. For as much as thou sawest that a stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, then it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, and the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation is sure. So we know, like I said, now that the British Empire was the kingdom number 3. They took control of everything. Now, I'm sure that they wanted to, and believe me, I'm going to explain Daniel's 70 weeks fully in the next video, most likely. But this is where how the statue plays out. Kingdom number 4, like I said, let me get back to where I was in my notes. I want to read you. This is actually Daniel chapter 7. This is Daniel 7:4, July 4th, our Independence Day. I don't know if any of y'all have ever noticed that. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. The lion was Great Britain, and the eagle was America. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and was lifted from the earth, and may stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So, the United States came into power after Great Britain. So, if you see this correctly, the 4th kingdom was the United States of America. So, the United States is the final kingdom before Yahuwah returns to earth to set up his kingdom. He has blessed this country so much, but we turned on him just like the Jews did in ancient Israel. They turned on him, you turned on him, and you don't do anything he says to do, but you call yourselves following Christ. And like I said, remember that the chapter 8 began with the goat, or Alexander, defeating Persia. And to prove this is true, well, first let me read one other thing to you. I pulled it up here so you would know. This is it here. The Battle of Issos occurred in Anatolia on November 5th, 333 BC. According to history, Alexander took control of Israel and Jerusalem 333 BC. So, if you take, well, I don't know how to clear that out, but if you take 333, well, let me clear that out again. Negative 333, because this was 333 BC when Alexander took control of Israel and Jerusalem, and you add the 2300 years, you get 1967. That was the year that the 6-Day War took place, and they should have, by all odds, lost. The Jews should have lost this war. But by the grace of God, they didn't. He fought it for them. They were attacked from 3 or 4 different sides, and they recaptured East Jerusalem, which included the Temple Mount at that point. So the 70th week actually began in 1967. But anyway, there's one more thing I want to show you. This is something that was conveniently left out of the canon of the Bible, and I hear so many people saying that Yahuwah gave us this book in our own language, and I disagree unless you want to admit that Yahuwah chose to hide the fall of America from us. So, this is actually 2nd Esdras, chapter 11. It talks about the eagle, which is America. This is all about America and the hell that they have wreaked on the world over the years. But if you get down here to verse 37, I know I've probably left stuff out, but I'm doing the best I can. It starts with verse 37. It says, "Beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle," that's America, "and said, Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts?" Remember, the fourth kingdom. Where did it go? "The four beasts whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them." And then if you go on down here, it says, "Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up to the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty." And Americans are definitely proud. "The highest also hath looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are full." America is disgusting. And I don't mean to say that I hate America. I love my country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But the Christians led the revolt against the God of creation. "And therefore appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible feathers, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, or thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed, and may return, being delivered from thy violence, that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her." So America is going to fall. We are told plainly, God said that America is going to fall. So that's it, people. That is the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. So I will point out that America was not only the fourth and final kingdom, but we were also the Revelation wilderness, where God protected the Jews that he wanted to spare from the Holocaust in this country. And as I say, I'm going to get into that in the next video too. You'll just have to follow along with me. And I love how these people are trying to tell you that Rome is coming back with its 7 hills coming. But if you don't believe that Revelation 17 and 18 are speaking of America, all you have to do is count the rays coming off the crown of the Statue of Liberty. There are 7, representing, according to historical documents, the 7 continents. And I'll leave it up for you to figure out how the 7 heads and the 10 horns work out. But one thing I know for sure, America was the Revelation wilderness, and God is done with America. We're also the final kingdom to reign. I'm asking you to pay attention to what I'm showing you, because the church was wrong about nearly everything. That is Daniel's or Nebuchadnezzar's statue.